The Crown Prince's private study smelled of old paper, polished wood, and fresh ink. Morning sunlight poured through the tall glass windows and spread across the white marble floor in long golden shapes. Tiny dust particles floated through the air, glowing softly in the light. The room felt perfectly organized and completely silent. Every book, every scroll, and every object on the shelves sat exactly where it belonged. Ancient war journals lined the walls beside expensive artifacts brought from distant kingdoms. At the center of the room sat Prince Kael. His dark military jacket looked flawless, and the morning light reflected softly against his silver hair as he leaned over a large pile of imperial documents. The steady scratching of his fountain pen echoed quietly through the study while he worked without pause. A short distance away, Rosalie struggled just to stay standing. Her duty for the morning seemed simple enough. She only needed to dust the high shelves that held Kael's rare antique collection. On any normal day, the task would have been easy for someone with her training. But today, her body was reaching its limit. She had slept barely 2 hours. The constant use of her spirit blade had drained nearly all her energy, leaving her arms and legs feeling painfully heavy. Even breathing took effort. A strange delay had formed between her thoughts and her movements, as if her body could no longer keep up with her mind. Still, she forced herself to continue. A little later, Rosalie lifted her feather duster toward the highest shelf. For one brief second, her vision blurred. The room tilted slightly. At the very top shelf rested a rare white porcelain vase from the old Southern dynasty. Under the sunlight, the thin porcelain almost looked transparent. As Rosalie carefully reached toward it, a sudden wave of dizziness hit her body. Her fingers lost feeling. The vase slipped. It slid off the smooth wooden shelf and fell into open air. Time suddenly slowed. In that single instant, Rosalie's disguise disappeared from her mind. The clumsy maid vanished completely. What remained was the trained fighter who had survived years of deadly nights. Her instincts reacted before her thoughts could catch up. Before she could even think about hiding herself, her body moved. She dropped instantly to her knees with terrifying speed. Her body twisted sharply as her hand shot forward like lightning. Her fingers closed perfectly around the neck of the falling vase only an inch before it could hit the marble floor. The catch was flawless. Perfect balance. Then reality crashed back into her mind. What did I just do? Panic tightened inside her chest as she stared at the vase resting safely in her hand. He saw that. If Kael noticed the speed of that movement, everything was over. Her mind made a decision immediately. She had to turn perfection into disaster. Using the force of her movement, Rosalie suddenly threw herself sideways and slammed hard into the heavy wooden bookshelf beside her. The loud crash shook the entire room. Sharp pains spread through her already bruised ribs as the shelves rattled violently. Stacks of reports, loose papers, official maps, and scrolls spilled everywhere. Sheets scattered across the marble floor like falling snow. Rosalie allowed herself to collapse right into the middle of the mess. The feather duster slid across the floor while she loosened her grip on the vase, letting it roll safely into the pile of papers. "Oh, gee grand heavens!" Rosalie cried out in panic, her voice shaky and embarrassed. She quickly crawled backward on her hands and knees, purposely tangling her apron around her legs to look even more clumsy. "I am so sorry, Your Highness." My foot caught on the rug. I truly did not mean to. At the desk, the sound of Kael's pen stopped immediately. The room fell silent. Slowly, Kael raised his head. His sharp blue eyes locked onto the complete chaos spread across his study. Papers covered the floor. Maps were bent and scattered. A rare southern vase rolled between piles of documents. And in the center of it all sat Rosalie, trembling like a terrified servant. A deep look of irritation settled across Kael's face.
"Silence,"
Kael said coldly. His low voice instantly froze the room. Rosalie lowered her head even further, hiding her face behind her messy bangs. She forced her shoulders to shake slightly, acting like a frightened maid waiting for punishment. "Please focus on the mess, Kael," she thought desperately while staring at his polished boots. Look at the papers. Look at the ruined study. Do not think about the vase. Kael slowly stood from his chair. Frustration showed clearly in his expression as he looked over the ruined room. Organizing the study again would take hours. Still, something about the accident bothered him. His mind replayed the moment again and again. Yes, the mess looked real. Yes, her panic looked convincing. But the first movement, that speed, it did not match a normal fall. A servant who slipped would fall heavily and without control. Rosalie had moved with sharp precision, like a trained fighter. Kael stepped closer, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked down at the top of her head.
Pick up the documents.
He ordered in a calm but sharp voice.
And pray not a single report has been damaged.
Yes, Your Highness. Right away, Your Highness. Rosalie quickly gathered the scattered papers, forcing her movements to stay slow and awkward while her mind raced underneath the act. He noticed it. Her fingers tightened slightly around the stack of papers. He is trying to understand how I moved. A cold feeling settled in her chest. The space around her was growing smaller. And Kael was getting closer to the truth. Midnight covered the imperial palace in deep silence. Inside the crown prince's private study, warm candlelight flickered against the dark wooden walls and stretched long shadows across the floor. The room smelled of ink, old books, and melted wax. At his desk, Kael remained fully focused on his work. His posture stayed straight and firm as he studied large maps and palace blueprints spread across the polished mahogany surface. His sharp blue eyes followed the new guard routes carefully while his fountain pen moved across the papers with steady precision. He was still searching for the hidden intruder moving inside the palace. A few moments later, the thick velvet curtains beside the tall window shifted softly. No wind entered the room. Deep inside the heavy folds of the curtain, something dark slowly began to move. A lesser shadow parasite slipped out from the darkness like thick black smoke. Its body twisted and stretched quietly while it crept closer to Kael's back. The creature moved with hungry intent, preparing to strike the crown prince from behind and force its way into his spirit. At that exact moment, the heavy wooden doors opened quietly. Rosalie stepped into the room carrying a silver tray in both hands. On the tray rested a porcelain teapot filled with freshly brewed herbal tea beside a matching cup. Her steps remained calm and respectful, but the instant she entered the study, her senses caught the sudden drop in temperature. The air felt wrong. Rosalie slowly lifted her eyes and immediately spotted the distorted shadow behind Kael's chair. It is behind him. A sharp wave of panic rushed through her chest, but her face stayed calm. The parasite is about to attack. If I use my spirit blade here, Kael will sense the magic immediately. I need another way. Her mind moved quickly. She adjusted her grip on the tray and walked closer to the desk. Then, just before reaching Kael, she deliberately caught her shoe against the edge of the thick Persian rug. Her body lurched forward in a perfectly timed stumble. Aya! The silver tray flew from her hands. The porcelain teapot crashed hard against the tall window frame and shattered instantly. Boiling tea exploded across the heavy velvet curtains in a wave of steaming water. The hidden parasite screeched silently as the burning liquid struck its body. The heat damaged its shadow form immediately. The black mass twisted violently inside the curtains before tearing itself free in panic. It fled through the open window and disappeared into the dark courtyard below. The silver tray slammed across the marble floor while broken porcelain scattered in every direction. Kael reacted instantly. His palm struck the desk with a loud crack as he stood up sharply, his chair scraping hard against the floor behind him. His expression darkened with pure anger as he looked at the destroyed curtains and spilled tea soaking the floor.
Have you completely lost your senses?
Kael shouted, his cold voice echoing through the study. He pointed toward the ruined mess with visible frustration.
You cannot even bring tea into a room without destroying half of it. Your carelessness is becoming a serious problem.
Rosalie immediately dropped to her knees among the broken pieces of porcelain. She lowered her head until her forehead touched the floor, perfectly acting like a terrified servant. Inside her chest, however, her heart pounded with relief. Be angry all you want, Kael. Your anger means the parasite failed. I deeply apologize, Your Highness. Rosalie cried softly, forcing fear into her trembling voice. My foot caught the rug. I will clean everything immediately. Kael closed his eyes for a brief moment and took a slow breath, trying to calm himself.
Leave.
He ordered coldly.
Get out of this room before you cause even more damage. You are dismissed.
Yes, Your Highness, Rosalie answered quietly. She quickly gathered her apron and backed away from the desk before leaving the study with lowered eyes. The heavy doors closed behind her with a soft click. The moment she stepped into the empty corridor, Rosalie leaned weakly against the cold stone wall and released a long, shaky breath she had been holding the entire time. Inside the study, Kael returned to his maps and documents, completely unaware that the accident he hated so much had just saved him from becoming a monster.